After over 50 years of isolation behind the neutral zone, the Romulans would return with a class of ship that could rival the Galaxy Class of Starfleet in terms of power, size, and most notably, presence. The D-Deridex class Romulan Warbird was a mainstay of the Romulan Star Empire, remaining in service for a long time and demonstrating that the Romulans were one of the big galactic powers of the 24th century. They were not only used by the main navy of the Romulan Star Empire, but its secret police force within the Tel Shiar. But what made the ship such a powerhouse for the Romulan Empire? Did it actually use dilithium to power its warp drives? We'll talk about this and more in our breakdown of one of the most terrifying ships of the Romulan Star Empire, the D-Deridex class Warbird. This video is sponsored by World of Warships. World of Warships is a free-to-play game and available for PC. Do you want to command your own warships? This is the game for you. With new content released each month, featuring things like new ships, in-game nations, and even brand new ship classes, you can always count on enjoying a fresh gameplay experience in World of Warships' 12v12 stunning arenas. Fancy battling out with amazing graphics? The game features a dynamic weather on more than 40 unique maps that feature stunning water effects and textures. World of Warships includes multiple ship classes to choose from. You can conquer the ocean in your own way. Oh, did we mention that World of Warships is also available on game consoles? Download World of Warships using our link in the video description. Now, if you use the code WARSHIPS, the one on screen, you can get exclusive rewards including a whole bunch of doubloons, credits, premium account time, and a whole ship. Sounds cool, right? There's always something new in World of Warships. Now is the time to get in the game. Remember to use the code WARSHIPS to get those exclusive rewards I mentioned, and we'll see you in game. The link's in the video description. Enjoy the video. Welcome, lords, ladies, and sovereigns to Trek Central. I'm your host, Captain Jack, and let's get into it. Before we warp into this video, if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Okay? Engage. In the late 2260s, the Romulan Star Empire used Klingon Design D7 battlecruisers. They acquired a handful of these ships and their designs when the two powers formed an alliance against the Federation. But it didn't take too long to incorporate the Klingon advanced technology into their own vessels, including the Warbird. You can actually see how the D7 would develop into the Deridex design, with the upper wing, nacelles, and bridge section bearing some resemblance to the D7 class. The Imperial Romulan Warbird is formerly known as the D-Deridex class, or B-type Warbird, a heavy cruiser and the largest and most powerful mainstay of the Romulan military and the backbone of the fleet operating in the second half of the 24th century. Carrying at least 45 decks and running a colossal 1,353 meters long for our Rebellion friends, or 4,438.9 feet to the Imperials, that is twice the length of a Starfleet Galaxy Class Starship. And it could accommodate 1,500 plus officers, crew, and troops. Like most Romulan vessels, it shares a bird-like appearance with a cowed head and nacelles on either end of the outstretched wings. Unlike other ships of the fleet, the upper and lower hull is separated by open space. This is also in keeping with the line of sight rule for the nacelles to generate a warp field. The command area, like any other, is located at the front of a massive head section, which carries a Romulan crest, consisting of a stylized bird of prey clutching two planets, the twin homeworlds of Romulus and Remus, one in each claw. It's got quite a nippy top speed of warp 9.6, though it could not maintain this for long periods as well as other Starfleet counterparts, without causing imperishable damage to the ship. However, it can maintain a respectful cruising speed of warp 9. Being one of the more clever factions of the Star Trek universe, Romulans opted to not use the matter-antimatter powered engines, instead going their own way by utilising a quantum singularity for their power source. Though the way energy was generated was different from the antimatter-matter reactors of other factions. Both systems would have an input matter of streams and output of superheated plasma to various systems. The quantum singularity was in essence a miniature black hole, which was merely a few millimeters across but produced enough power to warp space. Quantum singularities do have the potential to distort space and time, causing time to behave strangely, making it run backwards, different speeds, send someone through time, you know, your everyday quantum type stuff in the Star Trek universe. The singularity would be fed deuterium, which would then be compressed by the quantum singularity into a dense stream of energy. This would be focused through dilithium chambers in order to regulate this energy output into the warp nacelles or power systems on board the ship. Romulan ships therefore would use dilithium in their ships, which is why the planet of Remus had a massive dilithium mines to provide this energy-regulating substance to the Imperial Navy. Once the singularity had been created, there was no shutting it down without causing an implosion powerful enough to destroy the entire ship. In an emergency, the singularity could be ejected, either by automation or manually. The ship would be then reliant on twin impulse engines for sublight travel. The core itself is housed in the containment chamber of main engineering. Display screens and readouts mounted on a column in the centre of the room allow for engineers to keep an eye on the status of the core. The D-Deridex class is also fitted with a powerful tractor beam, allowing it to lock on and immobilize enemy vessels. The main emitter is located on the underside of the neck section, forward of the ship's cargo bays. Their installed transport systems operate on a similar subspace frequency to Starfleet. Now, what the ship lacked in top speed, it made up for in firepower. Boastingly armed with 6 ship-mounted disruptor cannons and 2 photon torpedo launchers, making it more heavily armed than a Galaxy Class or Klingon Bird of Prey. The disruptors were located in the head section near the navigation deflector and on the spars that connect to the front and back of the ship. A cloaking device gives the Warbird an added advantage of rendering it invisible to enemy ship sensors. Using the cloak, while made for stealth operations, it does have some minor drawbacks. Shields can't be up while under cloak, leaving it vulnerable to attack if detected. No firing of weapons of any kind, nor running at higher warp, making it only completely effective at speeds below warp 6. Enemy ship sensors were able to detect the Warbird under certain circumstances, such as if the ship went to warp while in a radiation field or a nullified core became misaligned, which could cause the warp engines to create a magnetic disturbance whenever in motion. Therefore, the engineering personnel had to closely monitor all electromagnetic emissions to ensure nothing gave them away. This would also mean the ship could not use communications to contact other vessels, as the communication signals would give them away as well. The Romulans have been using cloaking devices since the early 22nd century, but needed constant upgrades to counter improvements to sensors, homing torpedoes, ionic pulses, or by a sweep of a net of tachyons. Cloaking technology was also an arms race between the cloak and the detection systems. A shuttle bay is located at the aft, between the impulse engines. It is sizable enough to accommodate ships equivalent to a Danube runabout. The Romulans had a couple of similar small craft which presumably a D-Deridex class could accommodate. There was the Romulan scout ship, which had a smaller, more squashed version of the D-Deridex design which could accommodate only 1 to 2 crew members. Starfleet Intelligence had actually designated this to be a Talon-class shuttle, though whether this was accurate is unknown. Another shuttle which emerged later in the 24th century, the Theta-class shuttle, which still shared some Romulan design elements present in the D-Deridex class, though was more akin to the D-Deridex version of a runabout shuttle. The shuttle was heavily armed for a shuttle, equipped with a cloaking device, and was roughly the size of a Starfleet runabout. The crew quarters, located on sea deck, was sparsely furnished with simple chairs and tables, with bunks incorporated into the walls, similar to a Klingon Bird of Prey. In 2364, the Romulan Star Empire made a resurgence after 53 years of absence following a fallout of the Tomed incident in 2311. It staged terrorist attack when the Innovex-class Warbird, Tomed, collided with a Federation base at high warp, causing a quantum singularity confinement to fail, destroying 13 outposts. The Klingons sided with the Federation against the Romulans, leading to the Treaty of Algeron, forcing them to stand down from interstellar affairs, effectively removing them as a galactic power. Really, what was achieved was giving them breathing room to develop their D-Deridex class Warbirds.
We are back.
Guldacar, I mean totally an illegitimate, full green-blooded Romulan T-Bok, drops in on the Enterprise D, making it well known that they have returned, and they have the muscle to stand up to a Federation flagship. Though technically, this 53-year lack of contact between the Romulans and the Federation was not really true. In 2344, the Battle of Naranda 3 happened, where 4 Romulan Warbirds would destroy the Klingon colony on the planet. The Ambassador-class USS Enterprise C would answer the Klingon distress call, but would be destroyed by the Romulans. The Enterprise C being destroyed by the Romulans was not a bad thing, well, technically, as this showed the Klingons that the humans and the Federation had honour. Its lasting legacy led to a new era of peace between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. However, the battle initially caused a temporal rift to form, sending the Enterprise C into the future, thus appearing to the Klingons that they had dishonorably retreated, so instead of kicking off a tiring 2-decade-long war, that's a whole nother story. You can check out our videos on the Enterprise C if you want a recap of that story. The D-Deridex class Warbird would be active during many encounters between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire in the late 24th century. By the time of the Dominion War, the D-Deredex was the primary starship employed by the Romulans against the Dominion. The first use of the Romulan ships against the Dominion forces was in fact before the war, and was when a group of Tal Shiar took control of D-Deredex class starships. The Tal Shiar made an alliance with another secret police group, no, not Section 31, but the Obsidian Order. These two fleets of secret police starships would try and destroy the Founders' homeworld, the leaders of the Dominion. This plan would fail, as the leader of the Tal Shiar, Colonel Lovok, would be replaced with a changeling imposter. This meant the Dominion knew all about the plan, and would ambush these two fleets, hoping to wipe out both the Obsidian Order and the Tal Shiar before they'd start their war with the Alpha Quadrant powers. But at first, the Romulan Star Empire had no official interest in joining the conflict, even having a pact of non-aggression with the Dominion. They would go on to fight side by side with the Federation Klingon Alliance in various engagements towards the end, including the Second Battle of Chintoka, as well as several engagements following their welcome sight into the conflict. It would also be part of a battle group headed for the war-ending assault on Cardassia. Though it does bear pointing out that the reason why the Romulans would side with the Federation Klingon Alliance was due to the assassination of a Romulan senator called Varinak, who they believe was assassinated by the Dominion for finding plans of the Dominion invasion of Romulus, when in fact this was a fake, and he was assassinated by Elim Garak, working for interests for the Federation. As Varinak would say, "It's a fake!" Notable commanders of these giant flying ships of badassery were Commander T-Bok, mentioned earlier, confidently staring down Captain Picard and his own flagship, Colonel Lovok and Enabran Tain, commanders of the flagship Warbird, operating as part of a Tal Shiar Obsidian Order. Commander Tomalok, who is my favourite Romulan by the way, violated the Federation neutral zone to rescue a friendly crash-landed scout ship from a Galdorian core, discovered by the USS Enterprise D. They stayed in orbit until the rescue was complete. Finally, the one and only Seela. After stepping out of the shadows, because the corner was really dark and she couldn't help herself, we were all eager to know what her story would be and where it would lead, and we still are. She had been involved with the Duras sisters, Lurs and Bator, during the Klingon Civil War. A tachyon net at the edge of the Romulan-Klingon border revealed her ship and quickly ended that brief war. The D-Deredex class would seemingly be replaced near the latter end of the 24th century for the Valdor class of starships, though presumably there would still be D-Deredex class still in employ in other parts of the Romulan Star Empire. We would see D-Deredex class starships in 2384 protecting the Romulan borders from incursions by other powers. Even the Federation would be currently assisting them in their relocation effort. After the coup by Shinzon of Remus in 2379, the Romulan Star Empire would find itself changed immensely. The Romulan system star would start showing unnatural signs of going supernova in the near future, and not being able to move many of its starships from its borders or patrolling duties due to their deep-seated cultural paranoia. They would have to rely on the United Federation planets to assist in the relocation of many populations and planets that would be affected by the supernova. Ultimately, this plan would be thwarted, and though many people would be relocated, it would not be enough. As part of a plot by a secret cabal within the Tal Shiar, known as the Zat Vash, the Federation would suffer an attack by rogue synthetics on their main shipyards of Utopia Planitia. The Romulan Star Empire would perish in ashes in the oncoming supernova, but like a phoenix rising from said ashes, the Romulan Free States would appear. These free states would still occupy a large amount of territory the Romulan Star Empire had, and would go on to replace the D-Deredex class and the Valdor-type starships with newer models. The Tal Shiar would also survive the changing governments, and use a lot of these new ship types, from the imposing Dalekina Command Warbirds, usually seen at the head of fleets and armed for orbital bombardments with its blaster bays, to the DR-Vec-2 bomber Warbirds that were effective in its atmosphere bombing runs on planets, to their improved shuttles with the snakeheads. Warp-capable scout ships that can not only use cloaking devices to cloak itself, but also project false images as well. It was heavily armed and made a powerful interceptor for a single manned craft. Due to the fracturing nature of a Romulan Star Empire and the rising of warlords in the area's space, there were reports of warlords of old Romulan starships. From Kankatar in the Queen's sector, with antique birds of prey to the Zenus, and a wannabe Praetor who had his own D-Deredex Warbird and tried to retake the planet of Janos 6. Whether we might see other Romulan warlords with decommissioned D-Deredex starships in a possible Star Trek Legacy spin-off, we'll have to wait and see. Regardless, it's a very formidable ship. So, where did this famous Romulan starship design even come from? Andrew Probert had the pleasure of designing this one. Originally, the 1987 concept for the Warbird he wanted everything after the head section to be vertical, so it was taller than it was wide, instead of the horizontal result they went with. When working on the ship, Probert realised that their rules hadn't stipulated that the ship should be wider than taller, and have the warp engines above and below the void between the ship. Though that design would be rejected in favour of what we know now, 20 years after that concept, it was fully realised with the ships of Line Calendar on screen now. There was also some concepts of the D-Deredex class to not have the underwing section of a ship, something which would later be adapted to some Romulan ship designs for the video game Star Trek Online. In order to make the Romulan ship more menacing, the D-Deredex in its vertical configuration dwarf a pint-sized Enterprise D, and by extension the Enterprise C too. However, the design was a little too radical for the producers. Though they liked a lot of what they saw, it was reworked to have a relatively similar proportions. He had certain rules for Starship design that he had to be discussed with Gene Roddenberry. One of his ships was for warp engines to be operated in pairs and to be seen one on another. Though it was never formally established on the show, that would be broken in the future because Star Trek likes breaking its own canon and rules, of course. One of these ideas was for the engines to be arranged in a ring, much like an idea Matt Jeffries had for the original Enterprise. No bloody A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or J. According to the Star Trek Star Charts and Stellar Cartography, a Star Trek reference library, there was an in-system in the Beta Quadrant named D-Deredex, which could have been the origins for the name of the ship. A Master Systems display-like cross-section of Lovok's ship, created by Doug Drexler, only depicted approximately 26 decks. Though we could say by the time of the later episodes of The Next Generation, and even by the time of Star Trek Nemesis, this ship was likely refitted with more decks, or they just made a bigger version. Hidden features that never made it to screen included a V-shaped part of the front of the nose, which was intended to be the navigational deflector, an essential element of any faster-than-light ship that sweeps a path in front of it. The indentations of the bottom of the ring were twin cargo bays. The hump on top of the main engineering, the scales running down the back, were escape pods, and the notch between the impulse engines was the shuttle bay. The Warbird was canonically named the B-type in the next-gen episode The Defector, and although in Tin Man referred to as a D-Deredex class, the spelling changed to D-Deredex after the episode aired, and the spelling was only recently solidified in canon in the Star Trek Prodigy episode Crossroads. Sadly, that series just got cancelled, but you know, you can still go watch it, if you find someone to watch it. From its initial appearance, it went on to be one of the most used designs in Trek, making a total number of 37 appearances from 17 in The Next Generation, 10 in Deep Space Nine, 3 in Star Trek Voyager, and 1 in Enterprise and Picard, and 3 in Lower Decks, and twice in Star Trek Prodigy. The latest, chronologically at least, that we've seen the Romulans was in Picard Season 1, with the exception of Elnor in Season 2, Koth, who may have died in Excelsior in Season 3. He didn't, he's safe by the way. Check out our interview with Evan Evergore, went up this week. The Romulans are still a power in the galaxy, so there's no reason why they shouldn't reappear in the highly anticipated but yet to be announced Star Trek Legacy series. Nothing would give us more pleasure than to see the brand new Enterprise G kick the treacherous Telshar ass of General O, whose actual name is Nadar, and hopefully give us an updated visual of the Legend D-Deredex class Warbird. What are your thoughts on how we could see it again? Let us know your theories, we would love to hear them. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper my friends, goodbye.